Welcome, everybody, to the Tagline podcast, where I, the host, Meerkat Monarch, sometimes known as Lillevik, talk to my good friend.
Gene, the angry penguin. Hi,
Yeah.
everybody.
And we talk mostly about movies and Hollywood bullshit. And today, we originally started recording these like 4-5 weeks ago, I think.
Give or take, give or
Yeah.
take.
And the reason why was that we felt like we wanted to pre-record these, but we soon found out that yeah, I suck at time management, and I have so many projects and things going that I just don't have time.
You're
Uh,
you're a, you're a professional. That's why we got me, the layman of the group, and you, the in the field
Somewhat
guy.
professional, yeah. Uh, so, for those who don't know who we are, we're part of the well-known League of Evil, which is supported by our good friend Doctor Evil, who's at Doctor Evil Gamer on Twitter, and yeah, we decided just, let's do it live. Damn it, we'll do it live.
Yeah, forget it. It's like
I th-
my laptop would burst into flames if I tried to edit video on it.
yeah, I'm surprised that it's still functioning. That it hasn't exploded like a prehistoric beast.
Oh,
But
if you hear a loud popping sound, that's just me. I'm done.
yeah, good, good, good. So today we're going to talk about remakes and the fact that Hollywood seemed to have sort of drowned. How do I put this into a pool of less creativity, I would say, because a lot of the blockbusters out over the last couple of years and the future. Yes, Multi Morton, we are going to address the elephant in the room. Don't you worry. uh,
We're we're looking at, I think this year, I did a brief count, and this was like a month ago.
yeah,
This year alone, 30 something remakes, sequels, soft reboots, those category of films. We got like 35 major motion pictures coming out in that category just this year.
yeah. It's either either adaptation or I'm not saying that adaptations and remakes in general are bad. It's just there is a trend in Hollywood that sort of learn the wrong lessons from every remake they do. Let's just update it with modern vernacular, and then it will definitely sell.
Okay, let's just throw out the two big ones right now.
Yeah,
Let's throw out one good example and one nobody's seen it yet, but we're all expecting it to be a giant pile of shit. You've got the Jungle Book that they just redid,
yeah,
and all the things I'm hearing from my friends, I haven't got to see it yet, is that it's a great adaptation of the original.
yeah,
And you also have the new Ghostbusters, led by Paul Feig as the director. Uh,
yeah.
and it looks like um, hmm, I, I don't want to use those words in public.
No, I get you. I understand where you're going with this. It's and yeah, I think it was yeah, Multi Morton again said seriously Hollywood has lost its soul, and yes, I agree to a certain point that they have lost their soul. I mean, they don't seem to have this general vein of creativity. But when they respect the source material, like they seem to have done in Jungle Book, they could still, update the movies. I don't mind that. I don't mind the fact that they update the movies. But the elephant in the room is the Ghostbusters movie. I mean, it's just.
It sucks so hard you could get a watermelon through a garden hose.
Yeah, that's the phrase I would use usually. Yeah, it's such a pile of. It's just the writing in it seem like they have taken all the wrong things from the originals. The originals were they were written by some of the best comedic actors of their time, instead of having a director who's known for doing chick flicks write it. Which, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when I first heard all-female Ghostbusters, when it was just a rumor on the horizon, I was like, they're probably not going to do it right. But right now, we have some incredible female comedians out there. Tina Fey, Amy Poehler. These are some of those names that they put their name on something, and you know it's going to be a quality comedic work.
Yeah.
For the most part. They're the talent level you're looking for to match Bill Murray and that crew.
Yeah. I mean, they are. If Saturday Night Live hadn't lost its ability to write good skits, they would definitely go in that pool of excellence. I mean, Amy Poehler and so on. But it's just, yeah. Hollywood never had a soul. Thanks, Tarson. Yeah. Isn't Amy the one who steals jokes? Let's address that rumor at another time. I don't want to get sued by.
Well, that is supposedly Amy Schumer, not Amy Poehler.
Yeah.
You're thinking of two different comedians.
Yes. Amy Schumer is, yeah. Rumored to have been inspired by another comedian.
Yes.
Yeah, but the thing about remakes is, and especially in the Ghostbusters case, is that if you're gonna do a sequel or do a remake, please have the original creators, if you can, involved in it. Because otherwise you'll lose the essence of the actual original work. I mean, the fact that even Ivan Reitman wasn't even tangentially involved in the final script is terrifying for me, because he and Dan Aykroyd were the ones that created that entire franchise.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, when they do something like this, and Ghostbusters is a prime example of it, they aren't this is not a remake in the sense that you want to say somebody finds a property and goes, I want to make something that matches the original in my own image.
Yeah.
I want to paint Picasso in a different style. I want to take what he painted, I want to look at it, I want to capture that spirit, but I want it to have my flourish on it.
Yeah.
This is somebody who is this story, if you did not have the Ghostbusters name, if you just had this generic story, it wouldn't go anywhere. There would be no controversy. It would be another just bad summer comedy and would be forgotten. But you've attached the Ghostbusters name to it to make money. You've overinvested in a project that didn't need this level of budget. What is it, $150, $200 million budget?
Yeah.
For something you could have just... It's for a semi-serious movie with comedic elements.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, when you just attach a name to it, if you go into this because, that franchise made a lot of money, it made a lot of money in its day, so therefore we're gonna attach some new names to that franchise. you're gonna have a pile of, because you're not looking at the essence of the story or the essence of the what made the movie good. If you're just trying to revive a franchise because it made you a lot of money, you're gonna fucking fail. I'm sorry, but you're going to fail.
And you've got the director. You've got Paul Feig,
Yeah,
and he did what? Spy, Bridesmaids, and there was another one I can't remember off the top of my head. But he's good at a particular type of comedy. But those are generally more slapsticky, more silly, uh, more kind of generic.
mm-hmm.
I hate to use the word generic because it doesn't give him credit for some of the films he's done, but that humor is not the type of humor that made Ghostbusters a beloved classic.
Yes, and not only that, but that type of humor does not have the wide reach of someone like Dan Aykroyd or Ivan Reitman, in my opinion, or at least in also the opinion of what kind of money those movies made. I mean, they weren't tanked, but they were still just sort of very very niche type of humor. It might, but maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know.
Well, they did fairly well. Spy's supposed to be really good. I haven't gotten around to seeing it yet, but all the word of mouth I'm getting on it's good.
Yeah,
But look at let's go back to some more recent 80s movies specifically that they've ruined with
yeah,
remake, or the remake has not done well. Specifically, RoboCop and Total Recall.
yeah,
RoboCop, one of the things that apparently happened was with the studio, from the rumors I've read, was they doubled the budget at one point. That the original, the guy who played RoboCop, can't remember his name, in the new one, and the director were shooting for an R-rated movie. They were going to make a modern RoboCop. You know, it needed to be over the top, needed to be violent, needed to have some satire. But the studio comes in, doubles the budget, makes them put out something that's PG-13. The second you get the PG-13 label on something like RoboCop, you're having to cut out some of the over-the-top satire that was in the original that isn't going to survive a PG-13 cut. And with Total Recall, they just took a fun, goofy sci-fi movie, Arnold Schwarzenegger vehicle, and they turned it into this dark, brooding, dystopian kind of thing.
Oh, by the way, you were corrected in chat. Total Recall was the 1990s. But yeah, I agree. It's
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah.
I'm sorry, chat.
It's this, yeah, it's this I think it's the same syndrome which you run into a lot when it comes to, if you over commercialize something, then you all of a sudden have to reach beyond your potential, and you have to widen the amount of people that will go and see the franchise. So for instance, if the movie you're making is doing very well among teenage boys, then oh no, you have to include a couple of elements to make it appealing to teenage girls as well, so we can get that market, because that market leaks over into this, and then maybe if we included some nostalgia, we can get that group as well, and you thin things out so much that you lose all the soul that the original piece had, and it's tantamount of take a, okay, I'm going to use an idiotic example. Take a really hot and spicy dish, and then oh no, it's not palatable for these people, so we have to mild it down. Oh, these people don't like this. You just pick out the ingredients that made the original good.
Well, it's like here's a real world example of what you were just saying. Habanero fries. My
Yeah,
buddy loves spicy foods. He goes and gets himself some habanero fries. He's like, there's no spice to them. I cut habaneros once, and I should have worn gloves. I didn't. Washed my hands and then brushed my ear afterwards, and it felt like someone set my ear on fire. You know,
Yeah,
you take that label habanero and you apply it to something, and it's so watered down, the people who actually want to eat that are going to just be disappointed.
yeah, exactly. And it's the same with some people that we know that use ad hominems too much to make their point. It becomes a watered down term, and it no longer appeals to the people that it originally appealed to. So it it just as a screenwriter, as someone who's trying to make it as a screenwriter, it annoys the living shit out of me, because yes, I know of movies that I would remake because I could do it better, because I could write it better, but not by kicking out everything that made it good or interesting as a concept. But you have to keep what was interesting of the original project and keep the spirit of the original project in the remake if you're going to do it. But then again, why are there so many remakes? I mean, I genuinely think it's because of the over commercialization of Hollywood. I'm not saying that you don't appeal to the masses, but if you niche, you could still make a lot of money. I mean, look at Deadpool. I know
But
that's
there,
an adaptation, but it's still, you go for a niche, and yeah.
but look what they did with Deadpool, and this comes back to the point I was making: is it's too much money. Deadpool was made for $50 million. It was a risk for the studio, but it was a risk that paid off. You don't have to do 150, $200 million risk for a good movie. Sometimes if an idea sounds good, make it a 30 to $50 million film.
Yeah.
Don't try to blow it up to something it's not.
And
Ghostbusters isn't a summer blockbuster in the traditional sense. It doesn't need the insane visuals.
no, no. And it's the same thing with you know, if you're going to remake classic horror movies, you don't throw a lot of money onto the filmmakers then, because they lose their ingenuity. I mean, the reason why Jaws was so good was because he was shooting on a limited budget. And if you're going to remake that now, you would have CGI sharks everywhere, flying. Oh, Sharknado. That's what Sharknado is. It's Jaw remake. It's the remake of Jaw.
As Steven Spielberg originally envisioned it.
Yes, exactly. He envisioned it as a tornado spewing fucking sharks everywhere. That's what Sharknado is. It's the remake of Jaws. It's
Well, I mean, speaking of horror movies, there was one horror movie remake I actually rather enjoyed. The chat may not agree with me, and I don't know if you will, but Evil Dead. They redid.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I actually enjoyed it. It was not the original film. It wasn't,
No.
you know, but it's hard to recapture college age Sam Raimi, I think. Um,
Yeah, that is very true. I mean,
but I,
and the thing, it applies again. The same thing applies again. The originals, both Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, which is basically mostly the same story, and also, Cabin in the Woods, which is the short film that Evil Dead is based upon. It's the same it's the same story, but it's an originally told story, and both of the originals were shot at a very, very low budget. I have no idea what the new one's budget was, but it felt more like a well-funded movie.
well, that was the thing. It was, I, I don't know how much of it was studio and how much of it was just maybe the director not being up to snuff, but it felt like a new film. It didn't feel like they were just trying to be Evil Dead, Sam Raimi's Evil Dead.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like that. There were callbacks, there were little you know, signals and things for the fans, but it didn't try to just be a generic remake of the original because we still have the original.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
sorry, by the way, it's not Cabin in the Woods, it's Within the Woods. I'm sorry for mispronouncing that title or using the wrong title. Yeah, but there is something about I don't understand, and I understand why they don't do it, but I don't understand why directors don't do this a lot more. Look at really really bad movies and try to find a way to remake them and make them better. I know why the executives don't allow that, but you know what I mean? Really shitty movies and trying to remake them.
yeah, and people can't tell me they haven't been sitting there bored one day, watch some really low budget movie on Netflix just based on the idea and the synopsis and go, well, that was a really good idea, poorly executed. It's like, what if somebody then came behind and took these movies that maybe either didn't have the budget to pull off what they wanted
Yeah,
or just didn't have the talent, but take that idea and actually make the movie with the talent and the budget to pull it off properly.
take one of my favorite sort of turkey movies. Really really bad plots and bad ideas. Santa Claus Conquers the Martians. It's one of my favorite trash movies to watch because it's so fucking silly. But the premise is kind of funny and interesting. And if you were to remake it today with, you know, better opportunities and more time, it would maybe be a bit interesting.
I could see a good film being made out of that, you know.
Yeah. I mean,
You know, you got the children's market. I could see Pixar doing Santa Claus versus the Martian
yeah,
or Conquers the Martian.
conquers the Martians. Yeah. It's not really a Disney movie. It's more of a Pixar. Yeah. Yeah, and it interests me why we don't see more of it. Why we don't see more of really crappy movies being remade better. Because, let's run a risk. But then again, you don't run you try to minimize your risk in business. Therefore, that's why it's ended up in the way that it has ended up in the kind of quagmire it is, because minimize the risk of the investment that you're doing. So,
Well, it's the funny thing is I think it's on greed. I don't even think it's a minimizing of risk. I think they want to make $150 million film and make $1 billion off of it. I think that's all it is. I think they want to see that level of return where if they make for $150 million, that's five $30 million films. And if they're actually good films, they're going to make you money.
yeah.
They're not going to make you $1 billion, but you didn't spend as much to get the money you got. And you can use that money to then go produce the same level of films and the same quality.
Yeah.
It's the
And there's an example that I kind of mentioned on the Unsolicited Opinions podcast, which I want to reiterate right now, and that is the example of British sitcoms during the 70s and the 80s. Because you had a succession of really good sitcoms coming right after one another. You had the brilliant Faulty Towers, and then followed by that, there was another great success in the Blackadder series that came directly after them, and they made a point because I watched a lot of documentaries and making ofs of those types of shows, and they made a point that they wanted not to make a movie like, or a TV series like the ones that they admired, because they felt like, oh, if we get too close to it, then it will be too much, and we will not be noticed. If you understand what I'm saying.
Oh yeah,
And
lost in the night.
yeah, lost in the sea of copies. And the same thing can be said about the one following Blackadder, which was Red Dwarf, which is one of my favorite science fiction comedies. And they said exactly the same. They were inspired by Blackadder, but they wanted to make something different. They wanted to encapsulate the wittiness of those shows, but they wanted to continue evolving. And that's, I think that's missing now from any modern artwork, but especially when it comes to remakes, because they don't respect the source material in all instances, but they also learn the wrong lessons from the previous movies. They don't take into consideration what made those movies great.
Well, and I think with along the same point, everything they're doing now, like Ghostbusters, they're not setting out to make one movie. They're setting out to start a franchise. They're not trying. They're counting their eggs before they're hatched.
Yeah.
Make one good movie at a time. If it is successful, then you start work on a sequel.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's another point that a director friend of mine always makes when we're talking about sequels and so on, or especially if we're talking about franchises which started with just one movie. Make that movie a standalone, but always have plans for how you wanted to build upon that, so that it doesn't seem like, oh, we didn't have a plan for this character or that character. That you don't fall into the Terry Goodkind trap of always writing as you go along.
Yeah. Leave yourself a little wiggle room at the end. Plan your sequel. Plan for the best, prepare for the worst.
Yeah, exactly.
Write me a movie that you hope you get a sequel for, but if you don't, everything can be encapsulated in one film.
Yeah, in a standalone. And it's the same applies for remakes. If you're gonna remake it, don't plan Mummy 1, Mummy 2, Mummy Returns, The Scorpion King, and whatever, Emperor's Tomb, whatever the fuck they've made now. I think they're up to 5 or 6 Mummy movies. I've lost count, and Brendan Fraser is no longer able to get a job, so yeah. It's just, don't expect anything. Here's what I would love Hollywood to do. Take a fucking chance once in a while. Do a Deadpool once in a while as a studio. Not because it's going to be a hit, but because you like the idea. And that's why I always think, why the fuck are business people in charge of studios? They don't know jack shit about building a good story.
Well, and that's the thing. You've got these great ideas. And I think our episode title might be a misnomer because we're talking about the deficit of ideas in Hollywood.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's the case. I think you have studios that are pants-shittingly scared to take any sort of risk and then end up losing big when the thing that's supposed to be a safe bet nobody wants to go see because they're tired of it.
Yeah, exactly. The studio saver, yeah. It never pans out to plan for that kind of. I mean, the Batman v Superman thing was just that. It was meant to save DC Universe on the movie screen. It was meant to be a launch of a huge universe, not just, standalone trilogies, which they've had before, or standalone movie series, which they've had before. It's and yeah. I think that our little episode, and we're gonna continue doing like these 30-40 minute episodes about everything, and and talk about everything. But I think that if we were to sum up today's episode, is Hollywood, don't do remakes, and if you're gonna do remakes, please respect the source material, and please show some goddamn creativity and take a chance. Make a movie out of something that wasn't popular at the time.
I mean, go back to the 70s. Pull out some of these weird little sci-fi things, these cult level phenomena, and give it the budget it deserves. Bring back on the original creator. See if he's still got it in him or her to put something together. Don't just slap the name on something. Don't get a director that, Ghostbusters film isn't in Paul Feig's wheelhouse. He hasn't made anything that even resembles the original Ghostbusters in style, or that type of comedy. Go find a director who's doing that kind of thing. And don't sink the whole studio into one film. If you're not sure about something, don't give it a $150 million budget.
No, exactly.
You'd be amazed how creative people can get over the years. Like you said, Jaws, Star Wars. How many different of just the classic films were made better by people having to work within a tight budget?
Yeah, it's very true. I'm sorry, I'm writing in chat. And yeah, Tarson made a very good point. Why would a director want to come back and do something you already did? We're talking about being involved on the same level that Ian Reitman should have been involved in Ghostbusters.
Yeah, Ivan was.
Yeah,
but if you follow the rumors, he kind of got pushed out the door on that one.
Yeah, by our old favorite Amy Pascal.
Yeah, which I heard a rumor that she was out the door at that studio now.
Yeah, but
is she still?
She got replaced by Tim Rothman, which is the moron who led Fox almost into the ground with the way he acted on Last Stand, the way he acted on The Amazing Spider-Man, so on and so forth. And he's also the one that sort of tanked the Sam Raimi continuing making Spider-Man movies.
Oh, that's why would you hire that man? I don't understand. It's like, how do you do that? Well, that's a subject for another day, though.
Yeah, that is. Oh, but on a good note, Ryan says that the original creator of Gremlins is making a Gremlins remake. So maybe that will work.
Nice.
Hopefully. We remain hopeful, and that was today's tagline, this week's tagline.
Did you want to do a suggestion for films people may have missed over the years, or?
Yeah, well, let's. And it's it's the original Clash of the Titans for me. That was a remade. I'd rather watch the original, and I think that a lot of people of the generation coming up now have missed it because of the stop motion animation.
Oh, that stuff's incredible. And I would recommend people go check out a newer film. Not a lot of people may have seen it. It's called Red Lights. It's Sigourney Weaver, Cillian Murphy, Robert De Niro. Great little film. Great little thriller.
If we're going to do recommendation, please watch The House whenever it comes to your local theater. That is the movie that I worked as a translator on. So, yeah, that's the shill of the week.
The shill of the week. We have a new feature now.
Yeah,
I like that one.
absolutely, absolutely. Anyways, what is this all transhumanism and robot right shit these past few years? Yes, that is excellent. Damn it, I suck at ending these things. Anyways,
Well, you want me to give it a try?
yeah, try.
Well, thank you all for tuning in to the tagline. You can catch Jan on Unsolicited Opinions uh, Friday. Well, depending on what part of the world you are in, I don't know what the GMT on that is.
Uh, GMT would be 8:30 on Friday p.m.
And you can catch me on Twitter at Geomancer1980. Y'all have a good week.
Bye bye.